Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about boarding schools in the UK and especially how boarding schools take very good care of students while they're abroad. And I will talk about this with two wonderful guests, which are Mrs. Joanna Barrett and Mrs. Carly Latham from Oakham School in the UK. So first of all, thanks for joining me. I know you're very busy, so thanks. And would you like to introduce yourself and your role in the school?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name's Carly Latham, and I am the Deputy Head Pastoral at Oakham School.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joanna Barrett, and I am Admissions Manager for Oakham School, and I oversee the application process for lots of families, international and British families. So it's nice to meet you.
So, first of all, would you like one of you to give a few insights about Oakham School, like for prospective families? So, what type of school is that? The type of programs we offer, and so on.
Yes. So, if I can speak briefly about Oakham School. So we've been around for a number of years, sort of over 450 years, in fact. So we have a long and rich history and heritage of which we're very proud. Oakham School is, we're made up of about 950 pupils, and we take from year 7, which is 11 years old, right up until 18 years old. We have 50% boarding and 50% day pupils. So we have a very long boarding history. So we've been welcoming families from all over the world for numbers of years, and we love doing that. We have a really special mix here of day pupils and so locals who mix wonderfully with our international community. So we're really lucky. Oakham School sits in the Midlands, so we are actually really well located from a practical point of view. We aren't too far from the International Airport of Birmingham, and we're a direct train link away from Stansted Airport. So we have a beautiful campus, a 70-acre campus that's set right in the middle of a very quaint market town of Oakham. But we're blessed with our links and our connections, which make sort of Europe feel not that far away at all. So yes, and we run GCSE programs for year 10 and year 11, and then at A level at sixth form, we run IB course, A levels, and BTECs. And I might also add that we are now offering a pre-IB course for year 11 pupils, a 1-year course, which is a total immersion course for those pupils wanting to have a 1-year experience, either just a single year or with a view to then staying on doing IB. And so Oakham School's been offering the IB for over 20 years. So it's deeply embedded within our culture and within our teaching culture. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of who we are.
And you also introduced me to the pre-IB, which I didn't know about. So.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So it's a really lovely course. We had 16 pupils join us this year to do that. Some of whom will stay just a year, but some of whom are already saying, we want to stay on to do the IB, which is lovely. So, and it's a nice way to sort of to dip your toe in, and then potentially stay for those remaining 2 years. So it's we're really enjoying welcoming those new pupils into year 11.
I'm sure they will stay. I mean, as I have already 2 students in the school, I can say from their experience and their parents' feedback that they're really good care, that they're really like taking care and in all the aspects of the experience. So when you said before that you have hundreds of experience, it's funny because it's something that I said to one of these families some time ago, that they said, okay, my daughter had a little crash, a little crisis when coming back from midterm. And then, Antonella, there's something in the school. I mean, they know what they're doing. And I said, yes, they know what they're doing. So,
yeah. It is. It's true. It's difficult sometimes to package that up and market it. And sometimes it's something that families can kind of sense on their visits more. It's easier to translate in person than it is over a YouTube video, but it's something that definitely exists, and it's very much a part of the fabric of the school, that strong pastoral care and it being a happy school. So I'm glad that your parents are reflecting back on that. That's good to hear.
So when we talk about support, generally, I tend to say that boarding schools are a network of people who work together for the student's best interest. So would you like to explain which are the roles and who is actually supporting students and how in the school?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be very happy to talk about that. So our school, much as many boarding schools you'll find in the UK, are based around a house system. So that means when the students, young people join our schools, they will be allocated a house to join. So within that house, you already have an inbuilt structure of having a housemaster or house mistress. So they are the person who has overall care for all the students in their house. Then to help support them, they will have 2 resident tutors. So these are people who are often teachers in the school, so they'll have other roles. They absolutely could be teaching the girls and boys that are in their house. Just to note that our houses are single sex. You will find some differences across the UK, but the vast majority are single sex. So you'll have those 2 tutors that will help. You also have a day matron in our boarding houses, and also we have that in our day. So, as I said, the HM, the housemaster, housemistress, has overall responsibility for them, but the team around them, the matron will be there to help them in the morning if they can't find something, if they're not feeling very well. As you say, sometimes if they're just struggling a little bit, they're feeling a little bit lost away from home, not sure what to do, the matron will be there to sweep them up, to have a conversation, offer them a hot chocolate if that's what they want, sit down and have a conversation and help them to get back off to their lessons. And then slightly wider than the house, but they are attached to the house, is a group of academic tutors. And they will see the students twice a week formally. At our school, it may be slightly different. At another school, but Oakham, we meet them twice a week. And that is called a tutorial. And that will be a variety of different things, from, yes, looking at their academics, but also seeing how they are settling, seeing how they're getting on, how are their friendships, how are they finding it, what is working, what is not working. And all of these people feed back in to the team to make sure that all the girls and boys here feel as supported as they can do. And I could speak onwards and onwards, and I maybe will shortly, but about the wider care beyond that. But that is specifically about their house space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's as you said, that's what I'm trying to explain to parents. Okay, just imagine this. Okay, there's academic support, there's personal support. There's also it's just the approach of the boarding schools, which is something I really like, which is people take care of you, like in like an extended family, I would say. Okay, no one can substitute your mother and father, of course, but there will be, I usually say, lots of uncle and aunties, something like this.
Yeah.
In a way. I like to use this kind of word. When it comes to the way of supporting students, have you seen challenges changing over the years? Like, especially I'm thinking of the COVID, because that's what I saw. So maybe you saw the same.
Yeah, COVID did make some changes. People were taken out of big social groups where they learn a lot of life skills, and they were then a part of much smaller groups. And that really impacted children and adults in a variety of different ways. Some actually found it very comforting for those who perhaps struggle with being in big groups or being away from home. Actually, COVID helped them in some respects. It helped ground them. But actually, there are the vast majority who really missed the day-to-day interaction with their friends, with people in their own age groups, people in age groups either side of them, because that's, as you talked about, that boarding schools are a community. They may well sit within a town or a city or a larger village, but they are a community within themselves, and they take care of each other. So there was that element that was missing, and I think actually what a lot of them really struggled with at the end as well was the lack of structure. When you're at home all the time, you try and keep good routines, but it's very easy to fall out of that. And actually, we will know that teenagers and even us as adults, we thrive from routine. Yes, we need a break from it initially, but we thrive from that. So coming back from COVID, there was a real mix. Some children were very, very happy to be back, and it was, in everything. It was that they were happy to be back in classrooms and being taught face to face. They were happy to be with their friends, where they could go out and do their sport or their music or their drama, or just go into town or just sit in house and talk to them. But we did also see those who had an increase in anxiety, either being away from home or being in slightly bigger groups. So our support team, our pastoral team around the children were more aware of looking at who seemed to struggle settling back in, and what did we need to put in place. Did we need to make sure that there was some downtime for them in a day where they could have a little bit of quiet time? Did we need to make sure for our international students that whilst for our younger students, they're not allowed their phones during the day, that perhaps maybe at lunchtime and break time, we put a couple of extra text messaging at home to make sure that they had those touch bases. And I think from a parental point of view, it was happening before COVID, but parents wanted a greater deal of interaction with the school to find out and remain a part of what was going on in their children's lives. Boarding schools may used to have been from the past a place where people said, right, you're off to school, we'll see you at half term, we won't have any contact with you. My own experience of boarding school was I was allowed to make one phone call home each week. My parents also lived abroad, and you had a queue of people waiting for you to use the phone after you. And my parents were very happy that the school was doing their stuff. They were looking after me, they were educating me, and we still do all of that. It's just the parents also want to be a part of the community that we have here, and we really, really encourage that. But also saying that we are the professionals, we know what we're doing, we're absolutely looking after your children. But yeah, so there's, I think from a parental and a pupil point of view, we did see changes. Yes.
That was what I was about to ask, because I saw myself in, let's say, the application received in recent 2 or 3 years, that of course probably it's also different age and different generations, but also, parents asked me okay, can I call the house parents? Can I, if I want to, or can I, whatever, talk to teachers? Which honestly, for the previous 15 years of my career, no one cares. No, hardly someone went to see the school or during the school years, or talk to parents. Okay, they can deal with it, and I'm not going to be involved. But now they want to, which is good in a way, I think. I think it's good. But also maybe sometimes it might increase students' anxiety. Who knows? It's different too.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes, and I think Jo can talk to this in a minute about the different questions that she now gets asked in the admissions process. I think a lot of it would have waited until people came for a visit, or you were speaking to the housemaster or housemistress. But I think Jo's roles and her colleagues with admissions has increased hugely. But you're right. There's always a balance to be had. That yes, parents want to remain a part of their children's almost every day, but sometimes that can feel a little overwhelming for the young person, because they feel like they've always got to be on their top game to ensure that they don't let their parents down. But that's our role as well, to be that intermediary between the pupils and our young people and their parents, and say, they are working really hard, they're doing everything they can, we need you to just relax and do the fun stuff, do the lovely stuff, have the lovely conversations about what's going well or what you're doing in the holidays. Let us be the ones that are saying, come on, we need to work a little bit harder. Or actually, as sometimes we find a number of our students, is you need to put down the books and you need to go and have some fun with your friends. But I think Jo can talk a bit more to how that has changed in admissions.
Yeah, tell me, because I'm really interested to this.
It is interesting. So this is my 3rd year in admissions for Oakham School, and I would definitely say that the whole process of admissions is, without wishing to sound too corny, is very much a journey. It is very much my job and my colleagues' jobs to essentially handhold families through right from the very first inquiry, which might come through an agent like you, Antonella, or it might be just an email or a phone call. With a sort of initial inquiry, and that process can take up to 18 months before a child might arrive with us, and that's a long time. And the interaction in those 18 months are crucial. And we don't underestimate the necessary steps to be taken and the information that the families need to glean before, frankly, even making the decision to commit to a place at the school. So that decision-making period can be sort of anything like between 6 and 8 months. And that might involve one visit. In some cases, it can involve 2 visits, possibly even 3. That's not unheard of. And numerous phone calls in between and emails. And I can be asked things like, does my daughter need to bring her own bedding? You know, and is it okay for her to bring her little teddy? Is it okay for her to bring, how many pairs of trainers does she need? How many, does she need a dressing gown? Like, does she need her own towels? You know, and we get very used to being asked all sorts of questions because for most families, this is the first time they've ever ventured down this path. So, and we do find that particularly European families are very, very conscious of the pastoral care. How are we going to look after their child? And it's our job to sort of demonstrably prove that we're doing a good job currently, and to be able to properly articulate what their children's lives are going to look like once they're with us. Whether that's explaining what your day-to-day life might look like, a day in the life of a boarder. Or you know, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, well, what happens at the weekends? We understand we understand during the week they're being looked after, they're in lessons, they've got hockey, they've got netball, they've got, they're going to be they're busy. But what happens on a Saturday night, and how many people are left on a Saturday night to hang out with them, and what will they be doing, and will they get homesick on a Sunday? Will they have enough friends to be with? So that's an area that we get asked a lot, and we're very keen to reassure parents, both on our numbers, to reassure that we have a very healthy, full boarding community here. We're very lucky, and to explain some of the cross-house activities that go on at the weekends, the sorts of day trips they'll be invited on, and to where we can always put parents in touch directly with housemasters and house mistresses to be asking those sort of questions directly. I mean, that's the other thing to say during this journey that I've referred to. It isn't always just us that have all the answers. It's very easy now with Teams for families to request conversations with other members of staff, and we fully recommend that they do that where necessary and where appropriate, to have a proper deep dive conversation with other members of staff who can reassure them on their queries. So it's a varied job, and we get asked all sorts of things, and that's exactly what we're here for. And unlike the teaching community, we are here all year, so it doesn't matter. Outside of term time, we're here. We're always at the end of an email or a phone call.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to say that you also get the same questions that I get.
Yeah, it's understandable. I would too as a parent. I get it.
But I noticed that I get these questions before, long before application sometimes. Like, can I bring my, I don't know, hair care accessories or things? Or like,
Yeah.
do you think it's really important? But maybe for it, yes, for them,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's, well, as Carly said, eventually routine is important. So the way they have to change their routine, and can I see the timetable, like the typical timetable, so they can probably imagine how they'll be, and I can adapt or not. It was something that I wasn't asked before, honestly. I mean, before 2020, I have to be honest with. So again, I'm learning again my job.
Yeah, and I think it's partly because the rhythm of everybody's life around COVID and just after COVID slowed down a lot. People got used to the patterns of perhaps finishing work or school a bit earlier and having a little bit more downtime. And I think therefore it's, as a world, we have realized that, yes, people talk about this work-life balance, and it's very, very prevalent to pupils because they're young. Our age range, as Joe said, is between 11 and 18, and they're varied in what their energy levels are going to be, how much they can concentrate. And again, that was a knock-on effect from COVID, is their ability to sit in a classroom and take information on. So yeah, we had to look at all of that. And you're right, our timetable looks very busy, but it's very varied. It's, you know, there are days where they will have lessons first thing in the morning, and then there's sport, fresh air, and activities in the afternoon. And it is a change for some people. In fact, I'd say sometimes for students who come and join us whose timetable has been a bit shorter, that's one of the things that they struggle with the most, is just the length of the day. And it's just an adapted period. They just have to think about how they're using their downtime, and that's again where you talk about the wraparound care of the housemaster, the teachers, the matrons, the medical centre, you know, myself and other members. It is just to make sure that we've got that balance and it's right.
And I'm thinking, because actually, I mean, the girls I have there, they are in not in sixth form at the moment, but they are in younger years. So with them, I'm discovering new challenges because I mean, sixth form, they adapt in a different way than, you know, 15 years old, 13 years old. And so I wanted to ask you, I know that part of GCSE curriculum, there's this subject called personal, social health, and economic education. And from what I understood, there are general guidelines for the government, but also each school can adapt the content of the curriculum and the activities that you do to what you feel it's more needed on the school. So how do you approach this subject, but in general also, how do you approach the topics of well-being, study and free time balance, you know, mental health and things like that with students? If it differs between ages, that's also one of my questions.
Yeah. So we actually teach that across the whole school now. So every single year group has a designated lesson on it. We call it the pastoral curriculum. You could call it personal development. You could call it life skills. You could call it wider world. And you're right. There's an element of it in there, which is called the PSHE. And there is an element in there called RSE, which is relationship and sexual education. And the government do give us statutory things that we have to cover at particular age groups. And then they say, and here's a load of stuff that you could use, and it would be good before the students leave your school to be taught that. So we have a head of PSHE at the moment, and she is responsible for pulling all of that together, and I work alongside her on that. And it does cover everything. One of the big topics that we start off with across the school is looking at their well-being. Now that covers everything from, you know, physical health. So, and even you break that down, that's looking at what does your diet look like? How does sleep impact your physical health? How much activity should you be taking? And then that very much blends into your mental health. And of course, mental health is exploded everywhere over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And we're a lot more clued into, I think, as a society, clued into what's important. But for the children, again, we tie it into their physical health and looking at the mental health isn't just making sure that you don't work too hard. It's making sure that you have that balance. You know, you've got to eat well, and what does that actually look like? You've got to sleep well. So how many hours? We actually talk to them about the amount of hours. We talk to them a lot about how their brains develop and change as they go through the different ages, and almost validate that sometimes when they say, I don't know why I did that, that actually that's okay, because they really don't know why they did that, because they are ruled by the part of their brain that is just the instinctive, let's do it, it looks like fun. They don't think about risks and consequences. So we talk to them about all of that. That's right the way from our youngest pupils up to our oldest pupils, but we make sure it's age appropriate. And then it's looking about how do we fit in the wider world. So we will look at different cultures. We will look at having an understanding of how different people spend different religious festivals. So we ask them to be open-minded. It's a space where we can explore and educate and share views in a very sensitive way. With the younger ones, and again, we do revisit it later on, we look at friendships and how friendships change. And how does that impact you? We look at different types of relationships. We look at different families and different settings of different families and where people come from. So it is about what they're doing right now and what is happening right now and how that is affecting them, and also giving them suggestions, coping strategies, discussions, and what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, not only about how do they get that balance, but also then how do they deal with that in their academic life. If they don't particularly deal well when it comes to tests or exams, how do we help them with that? How do we help them deal with the little bit of stress that actually is good for you? We still need a little element of that, fight or flight. I can do this. So yeah, and as they move up through our school, they are looking more about what happens when you leave. Are you going to take a year out? And looking at all the things, talking about what visas might you need, how do you register with the doctors, what are the travel restrictions, what are age restrictions on certain things, what vaccinations do you need, how can you find this out? So, and then it blends into looking at their finances and writing CVs and setting themselves up for the future and beyond. And of course, we do quite a lot around universities, but not just UK-based universities, also international-based universities.
I'm wondering. Okay, first of all, short questions like how that is done. I mean, they are just lectures, or you work in small groups. How do you face those topics? How do you introduce students to those topics?
Yeah. So they're small groups, they're small teaching groups. So it's done in a classroom, but the way in which it's delivered will be varied. So sometimes we'll use little clips of other people who've experienced things. Sometimes it will be a quiz. Sometimes we will give them some information and then we'll say, now we want you to discuss it and tell me what your thoughts are. We do also have visiting speakers that come in. So if it's a topic that we think would be better delivered by somebody else, we'll get those in. So the students would be off for maybe a couple of lessons or during activities. So we'd be able to get that speaker speaking to a vast majority of them. And then all of this is actually backed up in those tutorials I was speaking about, and also in-house by the house team. We have something twice a week called house time. So that is where they will be in the house. It's a slightly more relaxed setting, but the older students, so maybe we call them form 6, so they're sort of 16, 17-year-olds, they may lead discussion groups and conversations with the younger ones, so our 13, 14-year-olds, around some of those topics.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just, you sit and you listen to lectures, they're really involved and asked to reflect and share their own kind of experience. And that's why one of my guests there said, because that's why I invited you, because one of them said, we're doing this and that, and I didn't get what she meant. So I wanted to ask you. She said that I understood that it's okay not to be okay, and you can either deal with this either independently, talking to someone, going to a counselor, but in any way you want to deal with this, it's fine not to be very well every time. And
Yeah.
I think for us, I mean, our Italian school, sometimes it's really demanding because it's really traditional. It's really different from boarding schools. We only have maybe 6 hours a day of just lessons, like formal lessons, and big classes, lots of homework to be done in the afternoon. So this pressure, and it's really stressing out students in the way that they feel they have to give up with sports or social life or something in the afternoon. So I saw that for them, going to boarding schools, first of all, it's one of the reasons why they want to go, because they don't know how, but they feel they can have this balance. But at the same time, when they get there, they also struggle a little bit to understand how to get this balance.
Yes.
So, for example, I have some students, even in other schools, that they keep having so many lessons and so many subjects because they've been used to do this all their life. So they still keep piling subjects. And it's like, why are you taking lots of subjects in this age? You're not forced to. And so they cannot even do sports and activities, even if that's why they went to boarding school. So it's really good that you try to explain to them and to make them aware that they have to find a balance, that they can find a balance. I think also adults example, like us as adults are really important example. Like maybe we don't really talk to kids saying, I've been going through this struggle and to this and that's how I faced it. So maybe sometimes they feel their own parents, they see their own parents as perfect, like, okay, they did this wonderful career, especially the ones like affording boarding school fees. They had wonderful careers actually, but it's not always like this. I mean, they might have been doing this way, like just up and downs, but they don't tell to their kids. So they also feel this pressure of being always perfect and on the top. And it's also, this is a
It's exactly right, and it is. I think that is something that we have seen increase, and we've become more and more involved in over the time. And so certainly my time here is that life isn't a perfect upward trajectory. And as Joe spoke about, the journey starts when the conversations, probably even when the conversations start with you, Antonella, then they go to Joe, then they come to us. It is, and then the journey through the school, and your use of sort of linear lines, or we're upwards. It just doesn't work like that, and that is okay. And it wouldn't, you're right, it wouldn't have been like that for their parents. And it's we need children and young people to recognize the real, that there are ups and downs, and sometimes you're going to be able to deal with it slightly better. One day you might be able to feel like you can face the world, the next day you feel that actually it's a little harder, and that is exactly what we're all here for. And we do actually help some parents. Sometimes parents will come and talk to us and say, I don't know how to do this in my life, how can I help my child? So we just talk to them about, just be honest with them. Tell them today was a bad day. Today you didn't get all your jobs done, or you didn't do it quite so well, and that's all right, because whatever you did, you gave it your best, and your best on every day is good.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also curious, which kind of like formal training pastoral care staff must have or usually has, because it's a really complex and broad knowledge that they should have. So what usually you study, you or I mean your colleagues study to be able to support students?
Yeah. So the housemasters and housemistresses are normally people who will have decided either early or midway into their career that they want to have a future in more so in the pastoral. So I say that in terms of wanting to be a housemaster, housemistress, rather than being, say, a head of department of an academic department. And they begin to. There's a number of professional courses that you can go on, but equally they would have been slightly heavier involved in the houses. So they are often the people who have been your resident tutors. They have been your assistant housemasters. We run mental health first aid here. We have previously run an in-house how to become sort of the skills and how to become a pastoral leader, a better pastoral leader. We go to other independent schools and share good practice. So whilst there is a lot of formal training you can do in the case of going off on courses that help you, so the BSA body runs some, HMC runs some. I mean, even our unions, for example, as a teacher union, they will run some courses as well. But actually, some of the best training and practice is being with the pupils, talking to your colleagues, talking to colleagues in school and outside of school. But if there is a particular area that we are concerned about, but be it mental health, be it eating disorders, anxiety, stress, we will also bring professionals in to talk to our pastoral staff. We have a wonderful team here of mental health practitioners, and they came in recently to a housemasters meeting and talked to us about grief and bereavement, and how do you help children who are facing and struggling with grief and bereavement. And that segued into how do we help the adults who are struggling with that as well.
Because I think you can study something, but also, well, you have to be grounded on study, but on theory, but the experience makes all the difference, probably. I mean, how do you approach a homesick girl after midterm? And I mean, maybe there are books helping you, but also maybe just make cookies and have a cup of sufficient. So.
Yeah. I think, as Joe would say, she probably tells the family, sometimes that's just your natural instinct. What does the pupil in front of you need? As you say, do they need to sit down and talk about it, or actually do they need the hot chocolate with whipped cream and marshmallows? And if you've got a house dog, to sit down and lose yourself with the house dog for a little bit.
Joanna, well,
Yes.
work in admissions, did you expected that, like, I would say, support, extended conversation about support was part of the admission process and conversation when you
Well, I
started
think,
admission?
yeah, it's a good question, Antonella. I think probably because we're a boarding school, inevitably there were going to be questions surrounding, the care of the pupils, much more so than just a day school setting. I'm fortunate enough to also have children in the school who are day children, but I've been able to draw on my own experience as a parent at Oakham School to help address some of the issues and some of the queries, a bit like the framework and the structure that we offer our pupils in terms of, as Carly's already mentioned, how many eyes on, as I like to say, how many eyes on our pupils. You have your HM, you have your tutor, and I know as a parent how many emails I receive from particularly my son's tutor. So I know almost on a day-to-day basis exactly what he's up to, and the little rewards he receives, and sometimes when he's not doing quite so well, or and so from a parent, sometimes I swap my hats. I put my admissions hat on, and then sometimes occasionally, if it's appropriate, I put my parent hat on, because I think having authentic and honest conversations with fellow parents is actually very helpful, and that's very much the way I operate, and lots of my colleagues in admissions do the same. That we understand parents and we understand their concerns, because we live and breathe the school. As being part of a boarding school, it's not your average 9-to-5 job. It isn't for any of us. It just doesn't work like that. There's a degree of investment, emotional investment in doing this job. And certainly from my point of view, when I walk to lunch and I see one of the pupils that I've helped to recruit in walk down through to the chapel in his or her school uniform, like, that's really lovely for me to think, wow, they're here now, they're an Oakhamian, they're in their uniform, they've got a big smile on their face, and they're with a new bunch of friends. That's, there's a real sense of achievement and joy attached to that. So it isn't, to answer your original question, no, it's not a surprise that there are lots of support questions, and it's very much, I think, at the forefront of being able to work effectively as admissions officer, really, to be able to understand and preempt families' questions and have patience and glean the answers for those parents who are understandably trepidatious about their potential departure of their child from their family into the arms of a boarding school. It's what we're here for, and to be honest, it's reassuring for us when parents ask sensible questions about their pastoral care. That's a reassuring sign from us to us that the family are understanding of the children's needs. So that's always kind of a green flag for us. And in terms of when families come to visit, that sort of understanding of the child starts then. Sometimes I see families whose children arrive and they've got big smiles and they're ready to get stuck in and they're ready to have conversations and ask lots of questions. And then I meet families whose children have arrived and they're a little bit withdrawn, they're a bit shy, they feel a bit overwhelmed. And it's so the kind of the reading and the understanding of the child goes on from that first moment. So they'll go on a tour with a housemaster or housemistress, and it's their job straight away to be able to pick up on that child's demeanor and how they need communicating with, and if they need a little bit of reassurance or drawing out of themselves or just need a little bit of time, then all of those things are taken into consideration, and it's something we deal with on a daily basis. So we are very experienced in trying to make families and pupils feel comfortable from the moment they're here, whether that's on a visit or whether that's joining us as a pupil for an extended period of time.
Well, thank you very much. So, as I also say, sometimes you ask as many questions as you like, because there's
Absolutely.
not. Some parents say, "Can I ask you a silly question?" There's no silly question, really.
No, there aren't. No, exactly.
The better it is, because, like, instead of imagining the answer, just ask me or you or any other person. So before ending the conversation, I would like to ask you, and you may take a few moments to think about it. If you will pick each one of you, let's say 3 keywords or 3 words to summarize the value of the boarding school experience, what would you think?
I would say it's an expansive experience. Expansive in that it encourages independence, resilience. It offers so many opportunities. Friendships, another word I would use, particularly as a boarder. The sort of friendships you're going to make here are lifelong friendships. That's so important. And then, yeah, okay, the coming to learn a new curriculum in another language. I mean, for your academic opportunities here are as a boarder, like that's an amazing thing to come and experience. So those are the three things that spring to mind initially for me.
Okay, thank you. What about you?
Yeah, for me, there's so many. I think it's an exciting opportunity, to come and connect with different people, new people, and not just from the UK, from all over. And I absolutely back up what Joe said. Is the friendships, the lifelong friendships that you are going to make, and just for me, Oakham. I've been here a number of years now, and Oakham is a really caring place. The children really care about each other, and the staff really care about each other. And I think that does extend to our families beyond. So there's a real sense of that, and and I think as Joe alluded to one thing at the beginning, we're not going to be able to get that across properly in a YouTube video. And it's the best thing we say to people is come and meet us. Come and see us. But yeah, exciting opportunities, developing lifelong friendships, and joining a caring community that really will take care of you from the start to the end. And then for our Oakhamians, that continues into life.
Yeah, that's also really, really good to say, yes, because they find a community, then the community goes with them if they want to. Yeah. So thanks a lot for joining me today. It was a super interesting conversation, and also thanks for sharing your experience and your your insights, because I'm on this part, but your experience in the school and with the students, it's much more valuable, I think, than mine sometimes, especially. And as I said before, because I have already students in there, that I know how much Oakham staff takes good care of students, so I can recommend the school, of course. And for those listening, if you're considering British boarding school for next academic years and you wish to check which is the right option for your child, just contact me or contact Joanna and Carly to have more information and to book a consultation. Thanks again. And for everyone else, see you in the next video.